Hello adventurers and welcome back to Tabletop Odyssey, where today we see the violent ghosts of Kirai's Urami infiltrate the catacombs in which Nexus is spreading their influence. This is the first opponent on the channel I am playing for a second time, by the way, having faced them in the league in the Bass vs Nexus match. The strategy for this game is the raid the vaults on standard deployment, with the scheme pool consisting of sweating bullets, deathbeds, protected territory, information overload, and espionage. I decided to take espionage and deathbeds off of the vault markers. My opponent took espionage and protected territory. This game I'm bringing Kirai 2, Envoy of the Court, with the Whisper upgrade, Ikiryo, Datsue Ba's alternative model Bing Nguyen, the Seishin Pool Noodle, a pair of Gwisin with Grave Spirit's Touch, Kari Zotiko, and the Ferryman. I have 6 stones to spare. My aim here is to take the centre and draw them into an extended brawl before bursting through to take the backfield with either the Ferryman or Ikiryo. With swirling spirits, guide spirits and other movement effects, I should be able to just zoom across the battlefield where I'm needed. My opponent took Nexus 1 with the 2 Shambling Nests as totems, Dr. Meredith Stanley flush with cash, the Archivist, Cavatica, 2 Berserker Husks, the Nightsilk Creeper, and 2 eyes and ears with a stone to spare. They intend to get 3 husks up running early and blitz through my byline in order to score, bogging me down with eyes and ears everywhere. Seeing their list, I knew I had to prioritise killing the significant scoring models to limit their chances of taking the centre away from me, while chipping the husks down at the same time, as they can only replace 1 a turn. So, turn 1 begins, and Kirai is going to swirl spirits 3 times to pull everyone forwards, and walks through the world to follow them. The Archivist uses Font of Knowledge on the Hive Mind to give them 3 tomes, whispers to the nest, giving them a parasite and drawing a card before murdering an eyes and ears for a corpse marker. Bing Bong guides up my Gwisin, almost fruitfully, as I had forgot to drop a scheme down in my deployment. Oops. But I'm fast enough to fix it later. Meredith eats the corpse to turn the other eye and ear into the 3rd husk, quarantining the fancy husk before moving up and chucking a vial of acid. The fancy husk then creeps up and focuses, providing an annoying block for me trying to reach Meredith. Kari is going to walk, use her whistle on the ferryman to move, and tolls the husk to make them discard a severe. The bloated husk responds by jogging up to join his friends, and the ferryman uses Lost in the Fog on the bloated husk to give them the black spot, and then charges them, but unfortunately hits the black joker. The deer nest then does some repositioning on the flank, and the pool noodle guides Kirai upwards. The thin husk then creeps up, drops a scheme marker and focuses, while Ikiryo decides to heal off the vial damage from the noodle aura, shrug off the poison, and project its voice onto the fancy husk, blasting onto Meredith. The creeper then seizes prey up the field, throws out another web, and charges the ferryman, doing 1 damage to them and taking 2 back. That's vengeance for you. Gwisin then smacks the creeper as well, but the damage is passed off as Nexus draws line of sight from her minions to exoskeletal connection, the bloated husk dropping a web marker. They then exoskeletal the thin husk up the field, grow a trio of eyes and ears from webs and schemes, and then charges, failing to smack Ikiryo through the eye and ear because of terrifying. Sad Gwisin then walks back and drops a scheme to fix my mistake, and Cavatica creeps up, calls out the Ferryman, trying to get the bloated husk to smack, but unfortunately fails. The will of Cadmus then sees an eye and the bloated husk and moves them up. Turn 1 ends, and there is an awful lot of models out, as my opponent has upgraded a husk and summoned 3 eyes and ears here. So this could be interesting. Turn 2, Kirai is afforded the luxury of going first, and she's going to punish them for grouping up multiple willpower 3 models. She swirls spirits twice, getting Ikiryo to zoom forwards and smack a nest with the trigger, and summons 3 whole enslaved spirits from failed chain spirit duels. A lot more models now. She then thirsts for vengeance for adversary on the creeper before sundering it for 3 damage and healing up the ferryman. The fancy husk then smacks Ikiryo, shoving aside into a spirit but fails, and then kills both Ikiryo and the spirit on the second smash and shove aside. This is looking quite bad for me now. Bing Bong then heals from the noodle, passing it to the ferryman before weighing the sins of the creeper, killing it and summoning a Onryo from the corpse. Tasty. They then poke the bloated corpse with their dagger and staggers them. The bloated husk then throws the black spot onto a nearby Ioneer and creeps back before swarming mites twice to kill my pool noodle. Gwisin regenerates, blasphemes to eat a corpse and chuck focus onto 5 separate models, threatens the husk before tearing apart for 2 and healing 2. The cheering Ioneer then stabs the Onryo and they stab back before putting adversary on it. The thin husk smacks a spirit but fails both times. Dog Nest charges the Onryo, swarms to kill the cheer eye and stacks some parasites. The chain spirit chain gangs the Onryo through the husk and the Ioneer to summon a chain spirit back. Oops. And then they go and kill the Ioneer in front of him, who blows up, giving the Onryo a parasite, which kills it as well, spreading adversary around in all that massive blob as well. So that's a nice fun little explosion. The Archivist then responds in kind by making a web, deafening silencing, and then using a font of knowledge to power up Nexus again. They then whisper at Nexus to draw a card and do some damage. The next Enslaved Spirit then chain gangs the Gwisin through a husk to summon the pool noodle back to life, and interacts on the centerline before Nexus charges and stabs Bing Bong through the bloated husk, fails the terror check again, and drops a scheme before summoning 3 more eyes and ears. They then exoskeletal connection the bloated husk to safety, as my final spirit chain gangs to engage an eye before failing to hit it. Cavatica creeps up, twists and miss to heal the nest up, while Kari whistles the ferry to eat a web, interacts to eat one herself, before twisting her own miss to heal Bing Bong. The deer nest dashes forwards, Meredith moves the husk to the vault, drops a vial down, killing an eye, and my sad Gwisin walks, trails of gore, the corpse, and charges the husk to hopefully deny them the vault. Unfortunately, Will of Cadmus then allows the husk to move up and claim it 2-1 on that objective anyway, and then uses siphon power to kill the fancy husk in order for it to be regrown to full health next turn. One of my spirits then dies to poison, ending turn 2. 1-1, as we both managed to claim a vault, and by god, that was a slog fest. There is an awful lot of models on the board now, as we have both been summoning like crazy. It's almost like you kill one and 2 more pop up. At this point, I know I need to kill the eyes and the husks to stop them growing back, while getting the ferryman up the field to score espionage. Difficult task indeed, but if I can kill more than one husk at once, they can only grow one back. Turn 3 starts with Meredith remaking the fancy husk and chucking out a pair of vials, killing off both of my remaining enslaved spirits before quarantining the new husk. Gwisin threatens the bloated husk and charges, dealing 2 damage, but inadvertently blocks any space for Ikiryo to be summoned. An Ioneer then fails to stab the ferryman, and Bing weighs the sins of the 2 husks at the vault for 2 damage apiece. DNS then dashes up to my home vault to act as a node for Nexus later, as the sad Gwisin threatens the bloated husk and staggers it. The bloated husk then manages to creep away and double walks to almost claim my vault, but the staggered keeps it out. The pool noodle responds by moving Bing Bong up to put more bodies on my centre vault, as the fancy husk then charges Bing Bong, pushing them away from the vault and knocking aside into Kari. They fail to do any damage though. Kirai then resummons Ikiryo off of the bloated husk before sundering the thin husk to death. She then sunders Meredith, but the first fails to a flushed cash and the second to a black on damage. The Archivist then goes and makes a web and vanishes forwards, silences up and interacts, and fonts of knowledge on Nexus once more for tomes. Ikiryo then deletes the bloated husk on my home objective, uses Feast of Vengeance to heal up Bing Bong for me, before Cavatica creeps up, interacts, and fails to miss Nexus. Kari then whistles the ferryman to their home vault and murders the fancy husk. That's all 3 husks now gone. My opponent decides at this point, unfortunately, that they are going to concede. The game was taking quite a long time at this point, and it seemed fairly clear that they could not stop me from scoring any points at all, and I could probably stop them from scoring almost everything, if not any more points at all. So the game will end 8-1 to Kirai. Lessons learned. This was an experience for sure. There was an awful lot of models out at the end, and explorers, well, they really suffer from low willpower, which made it really easy for me to summon off of. The fact that I could move block them and they couldn't due to incorporeal really helped me control the board in the centre and then stop them from scoring. Kirai is such a fantastic piece that really just has everything you need. Sundering can delete models with ease. Chain Spirit can create an army of spirits that drop schemes when they die. Swirling Spirits mean you can just about get anywhere you like with any model. And most importantly, anchor to reality. For me, this ability meant that at the end of the game, of the 2 models that had died, the Pool Noodle and Ikiryo, I had resummoned them, and not a single other model had effectively been damaged, thanks to all of the healing. The unsung hero of the Pool Noodle basically made fighting into a vengeance-filled crew a slog where you're basically just hitting yourself, because I'm going to heal off any damage that you do to me. While my opponent did start well, building a ferocious army to stop me in my tracks, giving me 3 Berserker Husks to deal with early, they did run out of scoring models fairly quickly, or at least ones that weren't stuck around their backfield objective still. They used Siphon Power a little bit too much and spread around the damage, basically meant that all of their main pieces were just going to die quicker. See, while they were able to kill their own models to resummon and reposition them, I didn't particularly feel in any real danger because I could do the same to them, and I never felt like I was being bogged down in quite the same way they were. I was very pleased with Kari and the ferryman allowing more mobility to the crew, and we'll consider them as replacements for Goryo in future. I do think Goryo can be very useful though if you're definitely leaning more into the Sundering, but in scenarios where you can guarantee to get off a couple of Chain Spirit summons, or Seishin or Gaki if you have them, the Ferryman and Kari are definitely worth taking there. So thank you to my opponent for a fun game, to Imps Gaming for hosting us, and to you for watching. If you'd like to see more, let us know what you want to see in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe. This has been Tabletop Odyssey, Sundering since 2024.